My name is Joe Prony, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today I want to answer the question about the NFL, the National Football League. Is the NFL racist? Is it woke? Is it inclusive? Or maybe they're just pragmatic, or maybe they're capitalist. Now, I want to look at this question, and I want to mainly look at the 57 prior halftime Super Bowl shows in order to determine this. And I also want to look at a few quotes that have brought into question whether the NFL is racist or not. I've got about 5 or 6 quotes that have been levied against the NFL saying that they are racist. And I want to take a look at this today. Now, one of the words I used is woke. I think we need to take a look at this word. The original definition for the word woke was if you were a person who cared about social justice and if you cared about discrimination. Now, put me in the category of somebody who is liberal. I voted Democrat always. I've never voted Republican, and you could definitely consider me to be a woke person who cares about social justice and discrimination. However, I think both sides, the right and left, are starting to use the word woke in ways that only benefit themselves. So if we look at people on the right side, they tend to use woke every time they don't agree with something, and they don't want to educate themselves about something that might be a little bit difficult for them to look at. However, people on the left side, of which I am part of that, they tend to use the word woke about everything that they don't agree with, and they try to throw the word racism around to bully people and to move them into a direction that they want. And a lot of times when you're using the words racist and stuff like that, they're using it indiscriminately, and they're using it in ways to hurt people when there is no need for that at that time. There's plenty of reasons to use that word, but a lot of times now it's being overused. So again, to reiterate, I'm all about being woke. However, if the word woke is being used as a synonym for victim, and it's being indiscriminately invoked in order to bully people and to get what they want, again, sometimes what they want is deserved, and sometimes what somebody wants is undeserved. Well, if it's used in that situation in a very negative way with nothing to back it up, then count me out. Now, as one of my favorite musicians is John Lennon, and he obviously wrote songs with Paul McCartney for the Beatles, and he's wrote a million great songs. One of the songs that stands out is Revolution. And John Lennon said he was all for a revolution, obviously. But if it included destruction and it included hate, then count him out. And I would say that in terms of overusing the word woke. If it's used in situations where it should not be used, and it's used to destroy people for no reason, and it's used in a hateful way for no reason, then count me out. Then I'm not woke at that point. So let's take a look at some of these definitions that have been levied against the National Football League over just the last couple of years. Number one, the NFL is a racist organization, quote unquote. Quote, white owners are like slave traders, unquote. Quote, the NFL is a billion-dollar plantation, unquote. Quote, football's violence disproportionately affects black men, unquote. Quote, Damar Hamlin's collapse highlights the violence that black men must experience in football, unquote. Let's just take a quick look at these. First of all, you can't just make a blanket statement and say the NFL is a racist organization. All right, there might be some ways that it looks like that they are, and maybe some ways that they're not, but you can't make the blanket statement. So let's move to the next quote. White owners are like slave traders. This is really interesting because I think we all know what the term slave means, right? Like people were brought to, let's say in America, black people were brought to America at one point against their will. They were treated extremely poorly, to say the least. They were killed and everything else. We all understand this. This is one of the most, probably the most horrible thing about the United States. And they obviously didn't get paid in any way, shape, or form. They were tortured and killed and everything else. To compare football players and owners as a slave trader type thing, listen, first of all, most of these football players have dreamed to be football players since they were little kids. They're not being forced to play football. They weren't brought here against their will. They want to play football, and they've done everything in their life to get to that goal. So let's throw out the word slave. Also, slave means that you're not getting paid. Let's say that. Okay, these people get paid millions of dollars. You know, it's beyond comprehension that somebody can compare a person who's making millions of dollars doing a career that they love to do and that they've sought out as somehow they're a slave. So that doesn't make sense. Let's take a look at the part that they might be looking at. So number one, 70% of the NFL football players are black. Okay? Now, in terms of the 32 football teams, there are no black owners. And so they're trying to look at it in terms of that. But let's take a look at it in the way that we actually should. The reason why that there's 70% of the football players are black is because they deserved it. Because they have combines and they play football in college, and the scouts look at them and they rate them, and the people who are faster, bigger, stronger, faster, better athletes and better players, they move to the top of the list, and therefore 70% of the athletes on a football field are black. Makes sense. I don't think we should say that white people are underrepresented in terms of the players. So we need to at least make 50% of the players white. So that would not make sense, would it? No, it doesn't. In that sense, though, we have to look at the owners. Okay, so if most of the owners are white, and I think out of the 32, there are 2 minority owners, but they're not black. Okay, so in order to be on the football field, it's not about color, it's about green. If you can win and you can make the team money and you move up the ladder, you're going to get the job. But you have to be bigger, stronger, faster. There's criteria. What's the criteria to be an NFL owner? Well, if you want to be an NFL owner, again, it has nothing to do with your race, has nothing to do with that, it has nothing to do with gender. It has to do with if you have at least $2.5 billion up to about $5 billion just lying around so you can buy a team. And it's much harder to be an NFL owner than it is to be a player, and it's almost impossible to be a player. So think about the odds of being an owner. First of all, there needs to be a team that's for sale, and that very rarely happens. And you have to have billions of dollars to back you up in order to buy a team. So how do we fix this problem if we think it's racism? I mean, it seems like a lack of cash problem for people, right? So if you want to get minority owners in there, what do? Do you hand people billions of dollars and then say, go buy that team? Like, it makes no sense. So again, the ticket to ride is there's a criteria. And if you can't meet that criteria, sorry, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what gender or nationality you are. Now, the other thing that comes up here is the amount of minority players, but there's not a lot of minority head coaches. Now, in this situation, it does look pretty damning for the NFL, because in order for the ticket to ride, for you to be able to be a coach, you have to know the game. So you play the game, and then you might move into some type of coaching job at a lower level, and then you could move into, let's say, a defensive or an offensive coordinator, and you move up the ladder. And it makes sense that that could happen. That's not that hard for some of these players to do. But where are they? So in that sense, I would say that the NFL, it looks really bad, that the fact that they don't have enough minority head coaches. And in that sense, I would say that they're guilty. So let's continue with this. one of the quotes, football's violence disproportionately affects black men. Now here's where we're taking the word woke and using it to an extreme. Yes, violence in football definitely disproportionately affects black men for the same reason I mentioned, because 70% of the players are black. So therefore, 70% of the violence is going to be on a black man. That makes sense. But why would somebody even write that? That's ignorant. Let's take a look at it like this. If you added up all the injuries in Denver, Colorado on skiing slopes, and in Vail, Colorado on skiing slopes, and then let's take it to Salt Lake City, Utah, and we factored in all of this, and we summed up all of the injuries that skiers have in these three cities, you would find that white men were disproportionately hurting their knees and ankles on ski slopes. Does this mean that there's a problem? Or does it mean that there's just a lot of white people who are in Salt Lake City skiing? So again, like, why somebody from, and I think I got this quote from the Scientific American or the Atlantic, which is, they are very respected publications. And I can't imagine somebody writing this and then that getting through an editor, let that slide. That's amazing to me. That's impossible. So saying that is just so incredibly ignorant. Let's take a look at something else that's ignorant. Damar Hamlin's collapse highlights the violence that black men experience in football. Okay, yeah, that was a hard situation to watch. Nobody wanted to hear about his heart stopping on the football field. It had nothing to do with if he was black. All human beings have hearts. And if you play football or some situation like that, there's a possibility of that happening. It didn't highlight a black man who had to suffer violence. It highlighted any athlete that's playing a particular sport. And that's really it. Again, this could have happened to a figure skater. It could have happened to a runner. It could have happened in any sport. It happened in football at this time. It could have happened in soccer. But why are we pointing out the color of his skin? So again, going back to the original question, is the NFL racist? We're going to have to take a nuanced look at this because the coaching thing looks really damning to them. However, everything else so far looks like everybody else is trying to be super woke just to try to get subscribers, likes, followers, and everything else, and with nothing to back it up. Is the NFL inclusive? It seems like they are. Again, if 98% of the owners are white, but yet 70% of the employees are minorities, you would say that they're inclusive. But we're going to look at this in terms of the Super Bowl as well. Are they capitalists? Absolutely, 100%. Is the NFL pragmatic? Probably so, because there's probably a lot of things that they may not agree with, but they're going to do it anyway because they know it helps out their bottom line. Let's look at some more. Well, no, I don't have any more quotes, so let's just end it at that. However, I could tell you this too. Since the year 2017, the NFL has donated over $180 million to social justice causes. So again, does that make them woke? Maybe not. Maybe they're just pragmatic and they're doing that just to help out their business. That could be as well. All right, so what I want to do here is start taking a look at some of these Super Bowls and how 13 minutes into the show. I'm going to try to do it quick because there's 57 Super Bowls, but I think I could sum this up pretty quick to give you an idea of where I'm at. Now, let's start with this. In 1993, the NFL owners, all of them, they voted to remove the Super Bowl from Arizona. Now, Arizona was supposed to get the Super Bowl that year, but Arizona, they failed to recognize Martin Luther King as a paid holiday. And I think they were the only state at that time that refused to recognize Martin Luther King Day. So what the NFL did, when I mean the NFL, I mean all of the owners, they voted to pull the Super Bowl out of Arizona to hurt them. To obviously, they don't want to give all those millions of dollars, and so they decided to move it to a different city. That was the punishment. So is the NFL racist there? Absolutely not. That was a woke move, especially for 1993. It was 30 years ago. Now, let's fast forward a little bit here to 2 weeks ago. And the Super Bowl was in, yes, you guessed it, it was in Arizona. Now, what did they do there? Was the NFL racist or woke or inclusive or pragmatic or capitalistic? I'll let you figure it out. So 30 years later, after doing what the NFL needed to do in order to punish Arizona for what they seem to be somewhat racist, the NFL goes back in, and now they have a Super Bowl there. And they put in Rihanna as the Super Bowl halftime show. And what did they get? Think about it. So you're looking at about 98% of these owners are white, they're older, they're conservative. Do you think they really wanted to do this, or they're doing it because they are trying to be inclusive? Now, what did they get for their money? Now, I don't care either way, but I'm just trying to look at it from their point of view. So what they got is a lady to come on stage, pregnant, with obviously not married, pregnant, sitting there massaging her rectum and then masturbating, touching her vagina multiple times throughout the show, picking up her fingers and smelling and tasting them afterwards. Listen, there's not one NFL owner that would have been okay with that, but they did it probably to be inclusive, and we have to take a look at that. And for all their trying to be inclusive, how were they disrespected as owners doing this? I think they were disrespected highly. Because again, when someone says, oh, you can't just talk about the kids. No, the kids are important. The NFL is always bent over backwards to try to include young people, especially for the Super Bowl, because they know that it's being broadcast into people's living rooms all over the country, and there's young kids watching. And this is why they have a slightly conservative bent to their halftime shows. Let's move on. Let's go back to the beginning. So let's start it from 1967, when the first Super Bowl was, and then we're going to continue to ask the question, where does the NFL stand? And are they woke or are they racist? So 1967, first Super Bowl. The Three Stooges were in it. Now, don't ask me why, but they were. They did the halftime show along with the University of Arizona and Grambling State University Marching Band. What's notable here is that Grambling State University is a black college. So in 1967, when there was a lot of racial strife in this country, and way before the term woke was even being used, the NFL is literally putting a black college marching band on the field for the Super Bowl. So I would say the NFL in that situation is extremely inclusive and extremely woke. Let's move to 1968. The only part of that halftime show, again, second year in a row, is the Grambling University Band. As mentioned, they're a black college. So the NFL incredibly going out of their way to be inclusive. 1969, the Florida A&M University Band. Again, a marching band in a college that's a black college. Third year in a row that they're featuring black colleges. Let's move to 1970, tribute to Mardi Gras. And they have people like Doc Severinsen, Al Hurt, Lionel Hampton, and the Southern University Marching Band. Again, so we're doing this in New Orleans, which is about 60% minority. So again, they're not pushing a white agenda here. I think they're being extremely inclusive. And when we're talking about Mardi Gras, we're talking about jazz music, which is a great American music started in the deep South by black people. Actually, all music was really started by black people, but that's beside the point. So they're celebrating this. They're celebrating minorities and celebrating jazz music, which I would believe in, say, 1969, 1970, around here, jazz music was not the in thing. So I thought that was pretty interesting. 1971, let's move to the Southern Missouri State Marching Band. Again, that's the only entertainment they had. That was a black college, again. 1972, Salute to Louis Armstrong and Ella Fitzgerald. Again, jazz black musicians. 1973, Happiness Is with the University of Michigan Marching Band and Andy Williams. Well, okay, so that's pretty boring stuff right there. 1974, the University of Texas Marching Band. Back to 1975, tribute to Duke Ellington. Again, we're back to jazz music, black musicians, and Grambling State University Band. Again, I think that's the third or fourth time that they played from a black college. 1976, the bicentennial, a tribute to America's bicentennial with Up With People, which is an interesting organization because they're a social justice organization. So we're talking way before social justice and the term woke is being used. The NFL was on it. 1977, to Small World with the Los Angeles Unified All-City Band. 1978, again, back to jazz music with Pete Fountain and Al Hirt. 1979, Salute to the Caribbean. Again, salute to minority music in that part of the world. 1980, Salute to the Big Band era, again with Up With People, a social justice group. And once again, the Grambling State University Marching Band. So if we're looking for inclusivity, I think they're bending over backwards to be inclusive. Let's be honest. Let's move on. 1982, a salute to the 60s with Motown. Again, most of the great artists in Motown were black, and Up With People, social justice organization. 1984, salute to the superstars of the silver screen. So we're looking at Hollywood, nothing wrong with that. And let's see, the University of Florida and Florida State Marching Bands. 1985, A World of Children's Dreams. Again, very much geared towards children as well. 1986, Beat of the Future with Up With People again. There's their social justice organization. 87, Salute to Hollywood once again. And once again, for like the 50th time on this list, the Grambling State University Marching Band. They must be really good. I haven't heard them. 1988, Something Grand with 88 grand pianos, including the Rockettes, which is a big deal in New York, Chubby Checker from the 50s, and the combined San Diego State and USC marching bands. Again, something for everybody. We've got the Rockettes in New York, we got Chubby Checker. I mean, it's very inclusive here. 1989 was the worst Super Bowl halftime ever with some guy named Elvis Presto, an Elvis impersonator who did a magic trick. I don't know how he got on that list. 1990, once again, a salute to New Orleans and a salute to Pete Fountain, Doug Kershaw, all these jazz musicians. Once again, very inclusive. 1991, A Small World, again, back to children in Florida and that. And New Kids on the Block, which they were all the rage at that time. 1992, Gloria Estefan. So now we're looking at more Hispanic. 1983, Michael Jackson. 1994, finally we get to Rock and Country Sunday, so now they're going to salute more of country music, which makes sense because there's a lot of country fans who watch football. So we're looking at Tanya Tucker, Travis Tritt, Winona and Naomi Judd. I'm not a big fan of that music. I hope I pronounced that right. Continuing, the one that I went to, Tony Bennett, Italian, good. Patti LaBelle, black, and Arturo Sandoval and the Miami Sound Machine. So we got everything. We got white, black, Hispanic. What is this about the NFL being racist again? Okay, the only thing we found is maybe the coaches, and I can't figure out a reason for that. But everything else, let's continue. 1996, Diana Ross. Okay. 1997, James Brown. Okay. 1998, salute to Motown, once again with Boyz II Men, Smokey Robinson, The Temptations, Queen Latifah, Martha Reeves, and once again, for the millionth time, the Grambling State University Marching Band. Now, I understand that this could be getting boring here, but one of the reasons why I'm pushing this is because we need to know the truth. You can't just have this thing about, okay, I'm liberal, so now I'm woke, so now I get to go after the NFL and call them racist too. What part of the NFL owners here are not breaking their back in order to be inclusive for everybody in America here? It doesn't make any sense. Let's continue. The year 2000. Phil Collins, Christina Aguilera, Enrique Iglesias, Tony Braxton. Halftime show. Again, incredibly inclusive. Something for everybody, right? Moving on. 2001, we have Aerosmith. We got NSYNC. We have Mary J. Blige, Nelly. Again, something for everybody. 2002, tribute to September 11th, performed by U2. That makes sense. 2003, we got Shania Twain, No Doubt, and Sting. Again, very inclusive, all different types. 2004, we got Janet Jackson, P. Diddy, Jessica Simpson, Justin Timberlake, and again, the Texas Southern University Marching Band, which is an all-black college. Again, something for everybody. Then we get into the really good classic rock stuff for a while. So then in succeeding years, we have Paul McCartney, the Rolling Stones, Prince, but Prince also played with the Florida A&M Marching Band from an all-black college, again. 2008, we got Tom Petty. We got, after that, Bruce Springsteen, and then The Who. Then after that, things got a little bit weird. We started getting into more lip-syncing type stuff. And anyway, 2011, we got the Black Eyed Peas. They were terrible. Usher and then Slash did a cameo performance there. 2012, we have Madonna. We have Nicki Minaj, MIA, CeeLo Green. 2013, Beyonce, Destiny's Child. Next year, Bruno Mars and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Again, something for everybody here that I don't know how anybody could complain and say the NFL is not inclusive. Let's move on. Next year, Katy Perry, Lenny Kravitz, Missy Elliott. Moving on. Next year, Coldplay, Beyonce, Bruno Mars. Once again, something for everybody. 2017, Lady Gaga. Again, if we're looking at gender, we're starting to put more females in there. 2018, Justin Timberlake. 2019, we've got Maroon 5 with Big Boy and Travis Scott. Again, something for everybody. More Hispanic flavor in 2020, we got Jennifer Lopez and Shakira. 2021, we've got The Weeknd. And in 2022 was Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Kendrick Lamar, 50 Cent, Eminem, and Mary J. Blige. So as we're going over this, again, everybody's entitled to their point of view, and I'm open to it. But when we're looking at this, that was the last 57 Super Bowls, is there anything in there that would indicate that the NFL is somehow, that they don't have their finger on the pulse of the United States? They are continuing over and over and over again to be as inclusive as possible throughout all these years. Now, how about their policies in terms of the way they run their business? Again, you can't tell owners not to be owners when they have billions of dollars and they earn that right to buy a team. You can't just go, you're not the right color. The right color to buy a football team is green. You need a lot of it. Honestly, I don't know any billionaires. I've never met one. So they're extremely rare. Again, one more time, the coaches, they got a problem there. In terms of the players, 70% of the players are minorities. I don't think that we should complain that white people are underrepresented on the football field, and immediately right now we need to start lowering some of the standards. If a white guy is slower, if he's weaker, if he's not a good player, we need to put him there anyway because we need representation. That makes no sense. I never bought into that. Affirmative action in terms of colleges, yes, believe it 100%. In terms of affirmative action, in terms of if somebody needs a heart surgery, no. I want to make sure the person who's going to do the surgery is the best possible person. If I'm going to fly somewhere and I need a 747 to take me to Las Vegas to New York, I want the best possible pilot. I don't care if he's black, white, Asian, Hispanic, doesn't matter to me. I want the best of the best at that particular time. And I think we should all expect that. I don't think we should be looking at quotas 100%. There are certain areas in this world that quotas don't make sense. I think quotas do make sense in schools because people have rough backgrounds, and therefore, because of that, it will slow a lot of people down, and there's a ton of untapped potential that we need to figure out to move them up, and we need to give them opportunities. But in this sense, is the NFL racist? I would say overwhelmingly no. Are they woke? I think they're doing a really good job of trying to be. Are they inclusive? I would say yes. Are they capitalists? Of course, 100%. And are they pragmatic? I believe they are. I believe these owners, half of these Super Bowls, especially over the last, say, 10 years, they wouldn't want the Super Bowl halftime shows, in terms of the halftime shows, they would want nothing to do with them. But they okay it anyway because they know that the fans would appreciate it. And so I think that they do that. Anyway, any thoughts, comments are appreciated, even if they disagree with mine. Even better if you disagree with me. If you thought this was beneficial to you in any way, please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.